I'm Sister Monica Reichmuth, and I have recently moved into an assisted living place here in Omaha at Emmanuel. And but prior to that, I was in education. I'm a Sister of Mercy, and I'm proud to be one. And I've been one for 66 years now. I'm from rural Nebraska, so I grew up on a farm and went to a public school until I came to the College of St. Mary.
Hi, I'm Sister Dolores Hannon. I've been a Sister of Mercy now for 55 years. I'm a somewhat newbie to Omaha. I've only been here for 16 years, so I'm newer to it. I entered the Sisters of Mercy in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. I come from eastern Iowa, and I'm a farmer's daughter from there, and have spent over 50 years in education, though, throughout most of my professional career, grade schools and high schools, and a little adjunct at a college once in a while, so really have enjoyed it. I actually started as a high school math teacher, and I still think algebra is the most perfect subject to teach, but I very quickly ended up an elementary school principal in Kalispell, Montana, and which is near Glacier Park, so a gorgeous part of the world, and a great place to be young and making all your mistakes. They didn't follow you as home as much as they would have, and then came back into the Midwest and was a grade school principal both in Edina, Minnesota, and then Olwine, Iowa, and Marion, Iowa. Loved grade schools, loved preschools being part of grade schools. They were always such an energy group. And I was just talking to somebody today and said fourth and fifth grade were probably, I always considered them the perfect grades in grade schools because they were old enough to know how to do stuff, and they were curious enough they still wanted to learn lots. So really enjoyed that. Then I went to a school in Fort Dodge, Iowa that was a preschool through high school. That was a great combination. It was, I said I had the best behaved seniors in the entire world because the kindergartners looked up to them. And because they were all in one building. There were 1,000 kids in one building. So it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that. And then came here to Mercy, here in Omaha, and Mercy High School. Really, it was kind of the culmination of my passion for education, wanting people to become faith-filled, and then the opportunity to bring Catherine Macaulay into it, and the richness of Catherine Macaulay, the richness of educating young women for the good of society. And so I kind of put all three of my passions in one place. So it was a perfect place to be for me. So. If you go back to our foundress, who was Catherine Macaulay, now you have to think of, it's 1831, it's Dublin, Ireland. If you were a woman, you hardly got any education. And then add on to it, you were Catholic on top of that, and you really weren't allowed to be educated. It was controlled by the British at that point. And she really believed that an education of a woman would change society. Now, in her time, some of that was the basics, what we would call education, reading, writing, arithmetic, but it was also skills, tatting, doing those things, anything that could help a young woman start making her own income and start having her own voice. And I think institutions like the College of St. Mary's, Mercy High School are extensions of that, of helping women have their own voice, have their own faith, be able to articulate who they are and what they want in the world.
Well, when I entered the convent, we really had a choice between being a teacher or being a nurse or some kind of social work. And I had taught in a country school, one-room country school, for 3 years before I entered the convent. And so when I entered here at joined the sisters from the College of St. Mary, I just continued in education. And then I taught in regular school for a while, and then was asked to go into special education. So I got my master's in special education in Peabody in Nashville, and then I taught and was principal of this school for the retarded children in Potomac, Maryland, and then became the principal. And I went on then, I came back to Omaha and was like a resource room teacher in our Catholic schools, and soon realized that we needed to have somebody who could test the children that were attending our Catholic schools that needed some kind of special help. And we didn't have that at the time. So I got my educational specialist degree in school psychology, and then came back here to Omaha, started a clinic at the College of St. Mary for a while.
I forgot that.
Yeah, and parents would bring their children to us, or we would go out to the schools and do the testing so that the child wouldn't have to leave the school as much to be tested. And then this was a way of working with the teachers and the parents to help the child too. So always some kind of connection with education.
My first thought was the sisters came here to Omaha in 1864. We always love saying we got here before the Jesuits. Always like to point that out to my Jesuit friends. And they came and when it was a city of dirt roads and muddy streets and
Yes, across the street was a cornfield.
a cornfield, and they were like, what, on 8th Avenue and something? I mean, they were, 8 blocks from the river?
Yes, the Seven Sisters of Mercy came up the Missouri River and were let out on the banks. And it was a real muddy day, and they walked up the hill, and there was a house there for them that the bishop had for them, and in it was a piano and nothing else. And they started from that, giving piano lessons, and then gradually opened up the school.
Yeah. And the piano, even though I come out of Cedar Rapids, Iowa branch of the community, having a piano was a really great thing because it was a way to get an income. You gave private piano lessons, and you either got paid in cash or produce, like somebody might give you a dozen eggs or a chicken or something. So having a piano, because that was like their source of income almost to start their place. But when they came to Omaha, and then the annals go on, and it's like 6 weeks later, they're opening 2 schools in Omaha. One more of an academy, kind of an upper end, a little more toward the finishing school nod, not quite a finishing school, and then one for more than just the kids in the neighborhood, both all girls again, and that, but which would fit with what we were founded for. But that, so they came from there. Then and I think they took steps. They building Mercy High School. I know in 1955, that was a whole thing of building a high school and starting all of that. Coming out here from, was it 8th Avenue? Was that where the old college was?
Let's see, it was on Castelar Street
Okay, Castelar Street.
and 10th.
10th. So then, coming out to here, and when they started the College of St. Mary's, I mean, they were coming out to another cornfield, literally. The cornfields were in their history. And stepping out this far out of town and away from the center of Omaha, but they thought it was going to be the right place to be able to build a college, expand it, have more students, all that. I think those are critical pieces. I think, because I've been on have you been on the board here?
Yes.
Yeah, both of us have been board members of the college at one time. When they had enough trust to say, we're going to have this be under the guidance of a board, and created a board of different people in the community and sisters to guide the college, that it wasn't to have that wisdom that they needed to expand and not just hold it close to us, but it needed to be a broader view and a broader in the community. I think that it's hard to give up something you've built a long time on. and invite other people in to help be of leaders in it, make decisions. But they stepped up and did it and said this would be better, I think, better for the college. I've always said a charism of the Sisters of the Mercy has always been, and sometimes this can be our Achilles heel. What can we do to make it better? Sometimes we don't always think it all the way through, I must admit. But we're pretty
Jump
driven.
in and do it.
Yeah, we're pretty driven by let's get in there and do something. And I think this will make it better. And sometimes we've had to say, maybe that wasn't our best decision. But it outweighs. There's a lot more best decisions than the ones we go, about.
One thing I forgot to mention was that when I was going here to the College of St. Mary one summer, and I still hadn't entered, Sister Ellis, her name escapes me, her last name, but anyway, she wrote a letter to my mother and said, "Why isn't Monica a Sister of Mercy? What is she waiting for?" And so when I went home that weekend, my mom showed me that letter, and that nudged me then and said, "Why am I waiting?" And so I feel a special connection with the college because that's where I made the decision to become a Sister of Mercy.
And that tells you that Monica's a much better person than I am, because nobody wrote my mother a letter and said, would you like to become, your daughter should be a Sister of Mercy.
I remember coming up those steps that I came up just now as a laywoman, and then I thought to myself so many times that was a good thing to do, and I never regretted it after that. Honestly, I think this guy was after me to get married, and it was, I don't know that, sometimes I think it was a way of saying to him, I'm not available. Sounds like a back way into the convent, but anyway, it was God nudging me, putting into my mind things that I was not listening and resisting, and so. But it's been a wonderful opportunity to grow. I think if I had stayed home and things were so different then in the 50s, and would not have had all the opportunities to grow in education and to meet people of different cultures and different ways of thinking of things, and just broadening me. And so and my spirituality grew too here, because we had many opportunities, retreats and theology classes and things like that were considered very important for the good education of a young woman.
Mm-hmm. For me, it was the service piece. I too, I was in a Mercy college in Iowa, and midway through. And I often say to the kids when they talk about vocations, I said, mine was much more the service. And I said I was the years of the Peace Corps, and I sometimes say I was too much of a coward to go to the Peace Corps. So I really just entered the community under the thought, I'll do a few years of service and good work, and then I'll go back to the life that I was planning on going to have. And so mine was really pretty pragmatic. It was going to be some service. I felt a call to service. And then I grew into a faith life. And a life with the sisters too, the community life. Both of those grew and have held me these years. I don't think just being of service would have held me, but mine was pretty practical. I was just going to do, 4 or 5 years of service, and then I was going to go about what I was planning on, being a teacher somewhere and being married and having kids and all that, and then stayed. I don't know your experience, but I think people thought for the longest time, it was like convents were going to limit you. You're going to be this kind of walled away place type thing. And for me anyway, it's been just the opposite. I mean, I actually look at some of my friends who are wonderful people and have wonderful families that I went to high school with, and I think, but you never got to had to travel, or you didn't have this educational experience, or you didn't get to work with this group of people, or. I think that was almost a surprise, even to me, that how expansive being in a religious community can be, and how supported you are in being expansive.
Yes, I agree. I always had a yearning to serve, and I always, when I would see somebody in need or not having an opportunity or just looking sad, I always had a yearning to help in some way. Yeah. And
you still do. You still like to help people.
I think that's what led me into special education and all. And I remember my brothers. We had so many opportunities to travel and that. And my one brother said one time, "Join the Mercies and see the world." And he was one that stayed on the farm and didn't really get to do that much traveling. But it was, even now, I just have that yearning to be more aware of people in the margins, like right now with the migrants and immigrants and people who are left out in some way. I think the Mercies have tried to be available and start things going in places where nothing was being done, or little. Maybe there was a gap there in the kind of service that was needed. Because we know our schools have wonderful lay people serving.
Exactly.
And the same with hospitals. And so those kind of services aren't, or God's work is going on there. Yeah. But to start different things, like with children that are, what do we call the children that are being...
Immigrant children? Or?
No, the ones, that are being...
sex trafficking.
Yeah, sex trafficking, yeah. And things like that. Just...
Yeah, I think the college, though, has two great examples
Yeah.
of stepping out from the norm. They have the Women in Tots program, I call it. I'm not sure that's the proper name, where, a young woman who has a child but wants to have a college education, and you're not cut out from, you can come here to campus, you can have your children with you, they're going for their education. I think that's a really stepping out of the quote-unquote box of what a Catholic all-girls college should look like, all women's. I think that's great, and I think working with students who aren't documented and making sure they have the opportunity to have educations. I mean, those are both pretty... And then educating women, not as radical today, obviously, in this time, but, you look at the 50s, 60s, and 70s, that still was a fairly, and then before that, 30s, 40s, 20s, that was a pretty radical idea that women should be educated. And educated for the professions, not the art of having good manners. They needed a practical education so they could be who they wanted to be. Well, I think that's one of the reasons we went together. We've lived together for 14 years until Monica made the decision for some assisted living. And I think we've done a pretty good job of living together those years.
Yeah, we had the best community, and we were open to inviting others, and we had a lot of fun because Dee likes to cook. And and just sharing our faith too with each other. We always had prayer together. We could have done a better job with that, I think.
Probably. I'd rather cook. No.
And just inviting people in. You know, there were 6 of us, 7 of us.
6 of us, yeah.
6. And so we had opportunities just to share and laugh. And I mean, there are hard times, just like there is in a family, where people annoy you, but you learn how to see. I mean, just you read the gospel every day, so you know how Jesus wants us to be in accepting and treating other people.
I think one element that we don't talk about in communities sometimes, because the time that we were living together, I was the principal or president at Mercy High School, and there were a few difficult days and a few difficult decisions, and it was always comforting to me that I had a place to come home to. On some of there were things that you couldn't share, but you could say, gosh, it was just, or I'm really struggling with this person, or I'm really concerned about this family. I mean, these poor women that I lived with, the 6 of us, we lived together. COVID, when you're running a high school from your living room, you know, and actually I didn't live, I went to school every day during COVID. You know, it was pretty wide space. But they'd have to listen to me come home and say, you know, we were finding things like, and I could come home and share with them. We, at that point, you know, a couple teachers called in and said, I've got kids that I've never seen fall asleep in class before, and they're so tired. And we started hunting. Well, because of documentation, their parents couldn't work. And these kids were working part-time at some local grocery stores who needed full-time employees. So these kids were working 40-hour weeks and trying to get a high school education, and they were falling asleep during class because they couldn't, somebody needed to pay the rent. And they were the ones that could earn the money to pay rent. I mean, talk about an education to me. I should put it on that. And they were so kind. They'd always listen to me go, oh, I can't believe this, you know, that these kids are having, you know, because that's so foreign to my thinking that a high school kid would have to be the breadwinner for the family. But that scenario, it happened. You know, and sometimes you help me gather, you and other ones.
Yeah.
We gathered money, we got money from the community to get rent paid, so you take that burden off of, you know, and it wasn't every kid, obviously, but it was really nice sometimes to just come home and go, I can't believe this, you know, this thing. Or you come home and go, yes, that kid, they did it, they're graduating.
Just the sharing.
And the sharing, yeah.
Sharing of our
And that,
life.
and sharing life. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's the everydayness of life.
I think Catherine McCauley would stress their faith, stay faithful to God, so that whatever hard things come your way, you will be able to deal with them. Keep your faith. And it doesn't have to be the Catholic faith. I think just knowing, accepting yourself, and being the best person that you can be, and be generous to others, be kind. You hear that all the time now. The things that I think we see absent in our world today, you know, she would have a wise thing to say to them.
Yeah.
I don't know what that wise thing would be, but
Yeah, well, maybe be kind.
kind, yeah.
There's a quote of Catherine McCauley's that is, be like shining lamps. And I think she'd say, you know, be that hope, be that beacon of there is goodness. Go out and be those people and help build that world of there is kindness and goodness and faith in your life. And show it. Don't just hide it. Be the shining lamp. Yeah.
I would say probably, you know, we're not going to have sisters, religious women, to be administrators or on boards as much. But there are so many good women in that have leadership skills and that are so talented in so many ways, and to somehow nurture that and encourage others to try administration and roles that would be able to fill those positions where they could have an influence on others too. Yeah. To pass that on. And I think that's happening. That's one thing that we try always to do, is to plan ahead and make sure that people, women and men, that we notice something within them that is a mercy charism, to encourage them to continue in education so that they can pass that on to others.
My prayer, I think, for one element, it would be kind of a this and that to it. I think to strive to be the person God's created you to be, and to the best of your ability, and to go forward, but at the same time be willing to turn around and give a hand up to the person behind you, and be that person that helps be the conduit for that people. So it's going both directions at the same time. But because I always want them to be the best person they can be, and that, but also turn around and give a hand to the next person, and be that generous, which is, to me, if I'm being my best person, I'm generous. So be generous.
Mm-hmm. Just at Mass this morning, Father said something about take the love that God has given you and pass it on. Mm-hmm. Don't just keep it for yourself.
Exactly. I think elements of it are that you know that God loves you. I think that's for everybody. It's not just a unique to mercy charism. But for the mercy lens of it, I think it is the compassion, the kindness you give one another, the welcoming whomever's at the door, and that that's how we need to live with an open door. I don't know. What would you say? You say it better than I do.
Did anybody talk to you today about our critical concerns?
Yeah, we've talked about that for sure, but feel free to include that in your answer if you'd like.
Yeah, I don't know if I can remember.
We'll get them.
But the things that, there are so many needs in the world, and so we have to focus on some things. And so it's women and children, it's the LGBTQ, whatever those letters are, and
Racism,
and
immigration,
yeah.
nonviolence,
Nonviolent.
and care of the earth.
And care of the earth, yeah. Care of the earth. Yeah. Just one of the sisters was saying today at our assisted living, she said, the only thing about this place is I wish we had a chapel. And I looked at her and I said, you have the best view out of your window of any of us. And so that's like your chapel. The beauty of the earth and nature, and helping to keep it for future generations beautiful. I would say listen very carefully to what their concerns are, And I don't think they're all wrong or all right. We all have a bit of the truth, and to talk together. And not just be critical of it, but to be, where is your hope? How can you find hope in the midst of things that seem to be falling apart or don't seem to be, or fearful? When you're fearful, you know, how do you hold on to hope and spread that hope to others?
I think that's where community comes in. And that I think also the context of the critical concerns are really the spiritual and corporal works of mercy, was what Catherine McCauley would have called them when she was starting the thing. And if you look at that part of her whole ministry was, at the beginning, was they were caring for typhoid, they were educating people who couldn't be educated, they were allowed to keep on the streets of Dublin, literally, because they were going to the tenements where people were dying of typhoid, and they're the only people that were willing to do it. She, gave care and spiritual care. A lot of we use the critical concerns today, and this is my own soapbox a little bit, but they're rooted out of the spiritual and corporal works of mercy. And you look at the beginnings, things of the Sisters of Mercy in Dublin, they were also out with the very marginalized. They weren't with the... Catherine McCauley was a unique woman because she had the ability to engage the wealthy, too. Because if you don't have funds, you can't usually do some stuff. I mean, that's a reality point. But she did that, but she helped them understand, but this is going to be for the least of your brothers and sisters. And she could communicate that, and her action was often with the least of your brothers and sisters, and who weren't being cared for. Everybody just kind of wanted them. So, sometimes the struggles we have, that we're not always in the pop culture mainline, is not a new struggle for the Sisters of Mercy. They started there, but it's being that welcoming community. And I think the community supporting, we'll sometimes drive each other crazy about it, but we also will say, but we're going to stand together on this. We get it. And this is how I'm going to do it, or this is how you're going to do it. But we will stand together.
Well, I sometimes think about this when I prepare a eulogy for
That's right.
another sister. And what would people say about me? I think I just am very ordinary, and just tried my best. Love God a lot, and nothing ordinary. Just this. I don't know. Really.
No, I think your kindness, Monica. You're
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. But no, you're a very kind person, and care about a lot of people, and that.
And I would say the same about Dee. She is not very knowledgeable, and anytime anybody asks her how my phone isn't working, or could you come over and do this, she always has time, even though she's serving on so many boards and committees and that kind of thing. Always, people trust her and know that
too.
she will be able to help. Uses her gifts
Yeah.
and is not.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
And one of the things I hope people will say of me is, she was willing to help.
Yes.
I mean, that, and I could have a good time. So-
Yeah.
And that was one of the struggles for Catherine McCauley when she started, because at her point in time, cloistered was the predominant piece, and I mean, it was a good thing. The Archbishop of Dublin was supportive of this, and the community, because nobody was taking care of the typhoid people out in the residence. And because of that, they worked around and they didn't have to be cloistered. And that was her big fear, that they're going to cloister us, and because that was what history at that point was doing with women communities. And kind of the church power and the government power both said, hey, we need these people out here doing stuff. And it helped get an action together that we didn't get cloistered.
Just what she said. I think it's important to be joyful people and have fun. And yeah,
I think you're right.
just spread the joy.
Yeah. And not be Pollyanny, but there's still joy in the world, and there's still hope in the world, and we need to, all of us need to be part of that message.